in hindsight, I would say I probably fit more into the normal category, but wanted to be skinnier. In my mind, I was overweight and needed
Okay,
to be
so a
skinnier.
little bit like all of us in fitness, I think we all have a degree of body dysmorphia, no matter
1,000%.
no matter what, no matter how jacked we get, we're always like, it could be better. It could be
Hmm.
better. So do you
Yeah,
have a little bit of that? Would you say that's fair? Like,
1,000%. Yes. And I also am somebody where gaining weight is not hard for me. Losing weight is more of the challenge there. So it was always that like tug and pull between wanting to lose weight and my body also kind of being stubborn, and starving your body obviously has impacts on your metabolism. And so it makes it harder. So that, yeah, that cycle definitely.
well, welcome everyone. This is your host at Rise 41, Gonzalo Gonzo Herrera. And today I have the privilege of having an IFBB Pro. She's a women's figure pro. And welcome to Miss Paige Wirtz. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay.
Yes,
Miss
you
Paige
did.
Wirtz, who's going to share with us a side of bodybuilding that a lot of people may not. I personally don't know because I don't have a lot of friends in women's figure. So we're going to find out about the road, how you get here as an athlete, what are the practices that you need to do, the mindset, and just dive into an understanding of Paige and your career, which is phenomenal, by the way. So
Thank you.
so Paige, welcome.
Thank you. Very, very happy to be here and super excited just to share my insights and my story with everybody too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start with the basics. Let's start with what first pulled you into bodybuilding, and did you have a moment when it shifted from like, okay, this is a hobby into like now it's a mission. Now this is what I do. Uh,
Yes, it was definitely an evolution over time. So back in college and around 2016 is when I started weightlifting. Prior to that, I actually struggled with disordered eating. And so restrictive eating, binge eating ever since middle school through high school, and then kind of carried through into college as well. And so I didn't have a great relationship with food or the gym for that matter. My focus was really I want to be skinny. I want to lose weight. The number on the scale, I was very fixated on that. And
mhm.
I think to an extent as well, I am a what I call a type A plus plus person. And so I think that also factored into just having control and having that sense of control over my life through the food and the exercise. And so gym wise and cardio wise, I would make myself run on the treadmill, do an hour on the elliptical. It was very, very cardio based, and I hated
Mhm.
every minute of it. I hate running, but I felt like I had to do it. And
Okay.
so around 2016 is, I feel like on Instagram when there was a movement towards women lifting weights, women getting stronger, and really changing your body with weightlifting instead of cardio. And around that time too is when the if it fits your macros craze
Right.
was
Right.
at its hype. And so with that as well, all of that was super intriguing to me. And so
Okay.
I was like, well, I want to eat more food. I want to look like these other women and not have to
Sure.
do. I'm like, if I don't have to do this cardio, this is awesome. So I slowly started to shift and prioritize weightlifting over cardio. And so I would do about 45 minutes of weightlifting and then a little bit of cardio at the end.
Uh-huh.
And my now husband, but he was my boyfriend at the time back in college, he was the one that kind of taught me the basics of weightlifting. And then just at the time also bodybuilding.com, the online forums, YouTube videos, again, the people, women on Instagram. I followed and consumed as much of that content as I could to learn
Mhm.
on my own because I was also flat broke in college.
Fair enough.
So
That's
I
how we
had to do a
start,
lot of
right? You got
that.
to start somewhere. You know?
Yes, yeah, and
So,
taking advantage of those free resources.
so,
Yeah.
so let me ask you when you mentioned that the disordered eating, because I also have a background of very similar. In my
Okay.
case, I was extremely obese. for just lack of, in my case, looking back, disordered eating combined with probably undiagnosed ADHD, depression, a combination of factors, trauma, all
Hmm.
that stuff. In your case, were you very skinny and wanted to be stronger, or were you heavier and wanted to be skinnier, or were you normal and it was just your relationship with food? Like what how exactly did you land there?
In hindsight, I would say I probably fit more into the normal category, but wanted to be skinnier. In my mind, I was overweight and needed
Okay,
to be
so a
skinnier.
little bit like all of us in fitness, I think we all have a degree of body dysmorphia, no matter,
1,000%.
no matter what, no matter how jacked we get, we're always like, it could be better, it could be
Hmm.
better. So, do you
Yeah.
have a little bit of that? Would you say that's fair? Like
Oh,
to
1,000%. Yes.
okay,
And I also am somebody where gaining weight is not hard for me. Losing
hmm
weight is more of the challenge there. So it was always that like tug and pull between wanting to lose weight and my body also kind of being stubborn, and starving your body obviously has
yeah,
impacts on your metabolism. And so it makes it harder. So that, yeah, that cycle definitely repeated itself kind of over and over up until I found weightlifting and if it fits your macros and whatnot at that time.
gotcha. So what following this pattern of inquiry? So, what did bodybuilding give you that regular fitness never could that you would share with the audience? Because I know the answer, but
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of fast forwarding to 2018 is when I decided to take that leap and go into bodybuilding head first. There's a
Mhm.
couple of girls that I had went to high school with actually that had been competing at the time, and I
Okay.
saw them and I was like, that looks super cool. I want to
Oh, so you
try
actually
it.
had peers that you knew in person that were in. Well, okay, that's helpful for sure. Okay,
Yes. Yep.
okay.
And so when I was in college, I didn't have the funds to be able to do that. As soon as I started full time, I was
hmm
like, let's do it, hire a coach, and then put my sights on my first show. And
hmm
after that, I was just kind of hooked. That's why I always tell people, if you have the itch to do it, if you think you might like it, try it. You don't know until you go through that process, and until you get on stage, and either you're going to say,
Yeah.
nah, this isn't really for me, or you're going to love it. But then throughout the years, and for reference too, so I did my first show in 2019, and then I'm now in prep. I think it's been a total of 17 or 18 shows over the course of my NPC and
Wow.
IFBB career. And this is my seventh year in a row competing.
Wow.
And so I've ebbed
Wow.
and
That's a lot of
flowed.
shows.
It, yes,
That's
it's,
a lot of shows.
I know,
So, do you
looking
do an
back,
average what, two
yes.
to three a year? Is that right? Does that sound
Hmm.
about right? Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Wow,
through
how do
the
you do
course of
that? Because
that,
I've only done the one show with my son so far, but we're hopefully this year we're gonna do it. We're gonna try and aim for once a year. That way, so in my case, that will force me to do a yearly cut and kind of like maintain the fitness, as well as like that gives me time to work with him.
mhm,
But so to me, like the idea of like doing two or three shows, let's talk about that if you don't mind,
yeah, absolutely.
because is it so with women's figure, is it like my experience is that it takes a good 16 weeks at least for a contest prep to be of any quality. Like I know there are people that can do 12 weeks and 8 weeks if they're in better shape, but that's fast. And then there's people that enjoy that super long one, the 20-week ones and so forth. So how do you balance your because I assume you're always going to try and grow,
Mhm.
you have an off season of some sort, right? Where you'd like grow tissue before you go into your prep. So how do you do that in like how do you manage that with two or three contests a year? What does that look like?
Yeah, so for me as well, I am not somebody that can do a short prep, unfortunately. Going back to
hmm
the takes a little bit more effort for me to lose the body fat.
hmm
I would say average prep for me to that first show is probably been about 18 weeks.
Okay.
And then, going into that first show at the NPC level, it was a little bit easier to manage of, I don't want to call it, a warm-up show is the first show, but
Uh-huh.
the show that kicked off the season, I might not have been at 100%.
Oh, I see. I see.
And
So you
so,
keep them
yeah, continue
close
to
is what
get
you do, so
better.
that
Yes.
okay. So you maximize that contest prep by utilizing it in multiple like close contests then. So you don't, so
Yes,
you're not doing like, off-season prep, one show, off-season prep, another show. You're actually
exactly. Yep.
doing off-season prep, and then your shows are fairly close, and that's the
Yeah, like 2 to
strategy.
3 weeks is typically the sweet spot of what I found. I mean, if you need to
Mm,
make some improvements of, getting leaner, or even if you're at that condition, you can kind of fill
mhm,
back out. 3 weeks is a really great spot. 1 to 2 weeks is a little bit quicker. 1 week is a lot to manage, and my coach has been able to manage that with me
yeah,
on a couple occasions. But I think, 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks is kind of the sweet spot. But you also have to manage the mental side of
sure.
that, because a lot of people, once they get to that first show, if there's too large of a gap in between, it,
Mhm.
it can be very mentally taxing, and you can kind of mentally burn out as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
So can you share with, speaking of that, once you're near that, like peak week, and having gone that, like, again, I kind of know the answer, but I would love to you to share with the audience. Like, people need to understand like what hormones are like and your mindset is that last couple of weeks before a show when you're fully depleted, you're peeled, you're ready to go, and how that affects your mindset. Would you mind sharing like what that's like, with the audience, like, so that they have an understanding of like why we're saying like, week after week is very hard. It's very, very difficult. Could you share a little bit of like why that is so?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's kind of two facets of it. One more of the physical side that affects the mental, and then more of the emotional and mindset side of things. So on the physical side, to your point, leading into the show, a lot of time the output is very, very high. So cardio is high, training, you're trying to give it everything you have with
Hmm.
then minimal fuel going into your body through food. And so that just takes a toll from a day-to-day schedule standpoint, depending on what you do for work. I work as a audit manager in public accounting, and so it is a higher mental output job, but I do try to plan my preps around my busiest times of the year. It
Hmm.
are earlier, kind of like January through March time of year. And then later in the year, yes, it's still demanding, but I have a little bit more flexibility. So I try to be really strategic around that. And I definitely encourage people as well, if you can proactively plan your prep to set yourself up for the best
Yeah.
prep and success. That's huge. And leading into peak week as well, I'll plan my week, I'll plan what I have on my plate to
Yeah.
try to just manage it to the best of my ability. And then on more so that mental and emotional side of things, that varies a lot, and it has varied a lot for me over the years, depending on the shows that I was getting ready for, if it was, a local estate show or a national show, or again, now at the pro level. There's different mental weights and mental tolls that can take,
Right.
and stress as well. It also depends of how you're looking going into the show. Are
Yeah.
you running behind in your prep? Did you run into an obstacle, an injury, a sickness, you had to travel for work, or go overseas for 2 weeks, or what have you? And so depending on kind of how you are leading into that can really impact that emotional side and
Hmm.
mindset side. And that's something that has been huge for me, and something that bodybuilding has really forced me to do, but also like as a positive of growing my mindset and
Hmm.
trying to control my emotions around me. I like to think about, we control our perception of reality, right?
Yeah.
Like what we focus on, how we define what's in focus. Are we going to see it as a positive, a negative, a
Yes. Is it
challenge,
gonna
an
be
opportunity?
yeah? Is it gonna be a stressor, or is it gonna be a motivator? Is it?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
And what
and
we
the
can
people
do about
around
it.
us, which we'll talk about that in a second, about the people around us, because I have a
Oh,
feeling that
yes.
you and I will probably share similar experiences with our spouses. I have a feeling, but anyway.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I would love for you to share is, if you could you give a very high level explanation of the different categories in
Mm,
women's bodybuilding, so the audience understands, like, because there is a huge difference between,
hmm
figure, bikini, fitness, etc. Could you give us
Yes.
just like a quick IFBB level of the different women's categories, I guess, from more modest, less muscular to the higher level, please?
Absolutely. Yes. So at the very kind of like base of it is now Fit Model, which is the
Hmm.
newer division. Least amount of muscle.
Hmm.
It's really that entry level division. So
Okay.
it's meant for somebody of, say you've been weight training for a year or two, kind of taking that average person in the
Yeah.
gym, getting them a little bit leaner, and then putting them on stage. So no
So this is like
striations,
a
no
person that
tie-ins.
that naturally might be fit looking,
Yes.
kind of like a, like, how some people are just genetic freaks and they don't do anything. They're just fit. That guy
Yes.
you hated in high school, you know?
And yeah, and I would say like the people that are really genetically fit, to your point, like they
Mhm.
might even be too fit for
Oh,
a
okay.
fit model. Yeah.
Okay.
I think at the judging level, they're really trying to keep that separation between
Hmm.
fit model and then bikini is the next one I'll
Okay.
talk to.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it's really that entry level division, I think, which I think is great because there isn't a barrier to entry
Yeah.
necessarily, and so it's an easy kind of entry point. I'll say for fit model and then again bikini, which we'll talk about next,
Uh-huh.
all the divisions actually, it does matter structurally how you're
Okay.
set up, and I'll kind of speak to that as well. But bikini and fit model and a little bit of wellness too, for structure, it's advantageous to have more narrow clavicles,
Hmm.
not wide. And
Okay.
so with those divisions, the V taper or kind of that like X shape from shoulders
Yes.
to waist to quads is a
Hmm.
lot less dramatic. And so for both fit model and bikini, what they say criteria wise is you don't want anything to really stand out. So you don't want
Okay.
like you don't
So it's like
want
a
like your
unified look.
shoulders to
Right.
yes, yeah,
So
like
like a
pop
unified
out.
look, like everything should flow in a
Yes.
single, everything should flow, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And match.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So then, yeah, going into bikini, it's kind of that next step up where they do look for some cap to the shoulders, a little
Hmm.
bit more muscle on the frame, really that focus on the glutes
Hmm.
is kind of the big focus for bikini, and then also developed hamstrings. You do not want overdeveloped quads. And
Okay.
from that conditioning standpoint, you do not want to be overly lean. Absolutely no striations. You
Hmm.
do want the glute ham tie-in from that
Yeah.
back pose, but you don't want it to be hard and that tie-in area, you don't want to see that etched out necessarily. You want it
Right.
a little bit softer and to your point, kind of flowing into
Yeah.
the
Like if you
physique and
start
really
seeing like
balanced.
the very detailed striations, then you're a little too much is what's happening at that point. Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And
And
then
what
from
comes
there,
next?
yeah, I would say between wellness and figure, but nowadays it's almost kind of comparable relative to like amount of muscle, but I'll speak to
Hmm.
wellness first.
Okay.
Kind of similar to bikini, the difference is the lower body is really in focus, and proportionally, you want the lower body to be overly dominant comparatively to the upper body. So
Okay, so
you
here
want the
it
lower
is
body to
allowed to
stick
have that
out.
extra development in the lower half, in the
Yes.
okay,
And
got it.
yes, they take that development to the extreme. It is
Okay.
insane, the
Okay.
wellness pros nowadays. It's incredible what they can do
Yeah,
with their
yeah. This is
physiques.
what so I grew up in the Caribbean, so I kind of have an idea where you're going with that. So but yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely like a lot of that, the these are the girls that probably like, hit the hip thrust and those glute machines like all the time, and that's the
Yes.
main driver and focus, right? In order to get that smaller top and then the wider hips,
Yes. Or
that
like,
look.
yes, if they were like soccer players or football, I guess, depending on where
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
in the world.
Hmm.
Yes. And having the quads very, very developed, the glutes
Okay.
huge, the hamstrings huge. So, and calves as well
Okay.
factor into it. And that
Yeah.
kind of just brings that complete package together. And so, yeah, upper body wise, a little bit more development than bikini, but again,
Hmm.
you don't want it to stand out. And some women that have more developed shoulders that are maybe
Hmm.
trying to downsize or something, they'll actually use their hair to kind of like cover up
To cover
the
to hide.
shoulders
Yeah.
and arms a little bit just to minimize that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then kind of next division would be women's figure, which is
Okay.
my bread and
That's
butter.
your that's you. Okay.
Yes. And
Okay.
so from that standpoint, really we're focusing on again that X frame. So
Hmm.
shoulders very, very large and capped,
Hmm.
small waist, small as
Right.
possible, and then sweeping big quads the bottom from the front and then the back. We want that nice
Hmm.
wide
Hmm.
lats, thick
Right.
developed back, and then now I feel it's even more of a focus of the glutes and hamstrings actually
Hmm.
being not quite to the extent that wellness is. But you'll
Hmm.
notice a lot of the women that are winning shows nowadays, you're like, yeah, give her a year and tell her to stop training upper body and she could go into wellness. And it's actually
Right.
very common for, say, if somebody turns pro and figure, but then they'll transition to wellness
Interesting.
because
So
of, yeah, that lower body development. Then they'll stop training their upper body and downsize the upper body to get that disproportion for wellness.
that's kind
But
of cool that there's
yes,
some fluidity in between those categories that gives you options as an athlete, depending on,
yeah,
because you might want, for whatever reason, like I know with men, so not everyone wants to be an open class bodybuilder.
right.
If you're older, you do not want to have that size because that's not easy to carry health wise.
Mm-mm.
So when you're older, you probably go, well, men's physique is just enough,
Mhm. Yeah,
or classic, in
yeah,
between, depending on your structure and your build. It's kind of cool that women have these options too,
yeah.
and it does seem like, so for women, because of the variety of shape, sizes, and proportions, you have more options, it seems, than guys. Because guys, it's really, what is it? Men's physique classic, I guess 212 and open. Is that all we got? I think that's it
Yeah,
for
yeah,
us.
fundamentally.
It's like smaller, medium, large, extra large. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good
So,
way to put it. But yeah, and
yeah,
it
but
also again kind of comes down to the shape of the woman
yes.
too, because and where I see women kind of transitioning from figure to wellness is again
Mhm.
if they have those more narrow clavicles,
Yeah.
it's just genetically you can only fill out as much as your frame allows. And so if
Right.
you
You
have
have
narrow
certain
clavicles, you're pretty
structure limits.
limited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I have a wider upper body,
Hmm.
linebacker type shoulders. So I fit really well into figure. And that's, I went into that from the get-go and fell in love with that division and it fit me really well, which worked
Yeah,
out to my
figure
advantage.
in my head, figure is like this superhero woman look, like
Yes.
and I don't mean like, and I mean like that, like, I hate that word, but it's the Wonder Woman Amazonian look, the
Hmm.
muscular, fit, athletic kind of look versus the wayfish, more curvy,
Right.
less, which would be like one of the other, like say bikini, for example, compared to that.
Yes. Yeah. And
Okay.
it's at the end of the day, you know, positive or negative, the
Hmm.
division is highly judged on your fundamental structure. And there are
Okay.
things obviously you can do to change how your structure
Hmm.
looks of building a bigger upper body, building a bigger lower body to make your waist look smaller if you don't have a genetically small waist.
Hmm.
But from the mandatory poses standpoint, we have the four mandatory poses, which is front pose, side pose, back pose, other side pose. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
really from that, it's that those are your structural poses that you're being judged on. And again, there's
Hmm.
some stuff you can control in between there, but there's not a lot of if you don't have that shape or structure, you get exposed pretty quickly.
Gotcha. And is there
Yes,
a division above figure? Is there?
there
Okay, what's
is.
next? What comes
Yes.
next?
Yes. So the next
Yeah.
division is women's physique.
Okay.
And so similar premise to figure of again
Hmm.
the X frame is the focus.
Hmm.
A higher amount of muscle on the frame, higher
Okay.
density, and also a higher level of condition. So
Okay.
figure, you want to be leaner than bikini, but you don't want to have the striations necessarily.
Right.
Women's physique is kind of taking it to that next level where they do expect to see striations in the shoulders, striations in the glutes, some striations in the quads. And so it's kind of just like taking that figure aspect and then multiplying it a step
Uh-huh.
higher with also some additional poses as well. So you have your four quarter turns, but then you have your front double bicep, your back double bicep, your side tricep, your side chest, and your abs and thighs. So similar to, poses in say like men's bodybuilding, for
Hmm.
example. And then you also
Gotcha.
get the posing routine, 60-second posing routine to
Right.
music, which for reference to, I did do women's physique at the NPC level. Like,
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was kind of my fourth and fifth year competing in bodybuilding.
Right.
Kind of did it on a whim one year. And I also had like switched coaches in between shows. And then I was like, hey, by the way, what do you think
Mhm.
about me trying women's physique? And my
Right.
coach now, his name is Andre Adams out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. He's a IFBB Olympian, men's physique and classic physique,
Nice.
IFBB Pro. But he is one of those people where it's like, if you have a dream, if you have something that you want to go for, he's
Mhm.
like, yes, absolutely. How can I support you to make that happen? And
Nice.
so he helped me with that and jumped in the show and ended up, winning overall in figure and women's physique in that show. But
Wow.
I really wanted to be able to show my physique in that
Mhm.
different way and be able
Yeah.
to have that ability
To
to
have the
do the
ability to
posing
show their
routine.
full routine and have extra poses and so forth that you could okay, you could show
Yeah.
that you could compete in that and be viable as a competitor in
Yes.
that. Okay.
I almost got a double pro card actually in women's
Wow.
physique back in 2024. I was one placing away from getting a double pro card, which is kind of crazy. And the
Yeah.
other women in the class, they were bigger than me, but
Mhm.
based on my structure and
Right.
how I was able to present my physique is how I was able to almost secure that double pro card.
Yeah, because it's not just size. Again, it's the entire package that you bring, and how
Yeah.
you present it. And we know, that's funny. Like I think a lot of people who are not into the sport yet don't realize that our sport is a sport of illusion. It's a
It
sport of
is.
hiding your weaknesses and showcasing your strengths and how to smoothly do those things. And when you do your routine, whatever that may be, even if it's as simple as, some of the categories literally have like, two or three poses and that's all they have, and then other categories like you described have like the full-on routines where the competitor can truly create something unique and bring something
Yeah.
unique and flowing, and it's an artful presentation. That's another thing that I love about the sport. I'm actually an artist by trade. I'm a graphic design person. So one of the
Awesome.
things that I love about the sport is that as scientific as it is, as scientific as we are with exercise routines, diet, uh, all the things that we do, uh, ultimately all of that comes to service the art side of it, because it's the presentation ultimately that's going to win you or lose you a show. And the
Yes.
presentation is the art piece. And that,
Yes.
posing and all that, that's the really hard part that I think so many people don't realize just how hard it is to pose.
Yes, yeah, and we might
Yeah.
get into this as well, but I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do
Go ahead,
posing
please
coaching.
share.
Yes,
Yeah.
and yeah, maybe we can circle back to the posing and posing coaching because then,
Yes. I
yeah,
would love
just the
to. We
last
can dive into it
division.
right now. Go for
I was
it.
gonna say just the last division, just to touch on high level, is the
Yes.
women's bodybuilding category,
Okay.
which
And
is
this
yes,
is
the most
the
muscle.
ultimate class, right? This is the
Yep.
the it's all out here. It's as peeled as you can get and as large as you can get, right? This is
Yes.
the I hate that word because so an acquaint Nick Walker says the mutant class. Like I
Yeah.
think that's how he called it because he is one. Let me tell you.
Right.
I
Oh,
met
yeah.
him at the Arnold and that dude is a mutant.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was able to meet him at this year's Arnold as well. He's, yeah, great guy,
Yeah.
super nice. But yes, he is
Super
a
nice,
freak,
super
but
clever.
in like the best way.
Yes, exactly. No, and in the
The good
and
kind of
the
freak.
like when you understand the level of discipline and effort that it takes to be like that, regardless of genetics, the actual effort to achieve that, yeah, you can't help but admire the guy,
Oh my
and
gosh,
and
yeah.
and folks in that, at that level. It's incredible. It's
Yes.
it's years and years and years of just dogged determination, and not everyone can do that. Actually, very few people can do that. So,
Yeah, you
so
have to
let's
have a
talk.
little bit of a
Yeah,
screw loose.
yeah, yeah. There has to be definitely like a. I think all of us share a little bit of that obsessive. We have to have a little bit of an obsessive driver, the ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the
Hmm.
first thing, and then a little bit of that body dysmorphia we talked about before, because we want to improve. We want to have that North Star that guides us, like whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, whatever that image is or whatever that direction. And that dogged determination that, again, people who don't understand our sport, they think like, 3 months and I'll get there. It's like, no, man, it's boring and it's repetitive, but it's how you get there. It's like there's no heroics. It's not like heroic effort and in 3 months you're there. No, it's the same grind. It's a grind, and you have to be okay with the grind and with that delayed gratification of like, in 6 months or a year I'll look like I want to look, by doing all these things that I'm doing today that kind of suck.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
And yeah, maybe just touching on that point too, because I think
Yes.
it's so important is a lot of people going into the sport,
Hmm.
their focus may not be in the right place. Their focus
Yeah.
might be either of they hate their body and they want to change it, or I want to win a show,
Yeah.
or they have this idea in their mind of what they're going to look like, particularly at their first show. I was guilty of this as
Hmm.
well. I thought I was going to look completely different for my first show, like a lot better.
Uh-huh.
And then come to realize, oh, you need to actually stack on the muscle on your frame
Yeah.
in order to look that way. But having this continuous improvement mindset where for me, I don't have an end goal. There is no finite end goal. Like the
Right.
stage should not be the end goal. Winning a show, I think is, and winning your class, winning an overall, to me, that's just inherent. Like
Hmm.
I'm a competitive person. Like I want to win. So like that's just it. It's just the kind of inherent goal there.
Right.
But then setting those micro goals within a prep, in that process, and just like that macro level view, and really challenging, like, why do you want to do this? Because if
Yeah.
it's for just a vanity aspect and you don't have a why that's rooted deep enough, you're going to get burned out. You're going to
Yeah. You're
like
gonna
when
quit.
the hard times come, like you might just end up quitting
Yeah.
versus being able to say, no, the reason why I started this was, to inspire
This.
other people to, push myself further than I ever thought possible.
Yeah.
And a big thing too, celebrating the wins throughout the process.
Yes,
I'm really
the
bad at
road.
that.
That's you're so right. Let's talk about that a little bit because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get hyper focused on that their quote unquote end goal, and they don't see that there's all these victories on the way there.
Yes.
That they don't even realize. Like hey, maybe for the first time you're under 12% body fat in your life. That's
Right.
healthy. That's actually a good thing.
Right.
Or you were able to, I don't know, lift X amount of weight in certain exercise, maybe that in your head was like, I wonder if I can become strong enough to do this, and maybe you
Right.
can, or
Hmm.
any of it. There's a variety of goals like that. You're so
Yeah.
right, Paige. You're so right. I hadn't even considered that to share
Mm,
with folks. Yeah,
yeah.
because I've had people approach at the gym, and I've only been to full disclosure, serious about bodybuilding maybe 2 years.
Hmm.
Literally 2 years. Like weightlifting for a lot more for health. When I first lost all my weight, but then the bodybuilding piece with my son when he said, "I want to do a show," and I'm like, "Well, I guess we're doing a show," uh, that was my motivator. Honestly, it
I
was
love
like,
that.
go do it with him. So,
Yes.
and now I'm hooked. Now it's too late. We're
Yep.
both
Oh
hooked.
yeah.
You know how it is, right? But we
1,000%.
never, when we did it, there were all these little things along the way that you're right, that were like, oh, hey, we can do this. This is all these little stops along the way that show you that you're getting there. But I've had so many people approach, and like the first thing, especially teenagers, young kids, I
Mm.
get a lot of those in the gym for some reason. They think I know what I'm doing. I don't. Uh,
None of us
I
do really.
don't.
We're figuring it out as we go.
Exactly.
That's
We're
that's the
figuring it
motto
out
of
as we
life.
go. That's the other thing. You're right.
That's the beauty of it.
But they're like, oh yeah, because I want to have a pro card in 2 years. And I'm like,
Mm.
what? That's what? No.
Why? Like also, yeah, like why? What's
Right.
the
It's like, and then what?
yeah,
You know,
right,
and And then what? And then they're like, well, I don't know. I'll have a pro card. And then I don't know, I'll do Instagram. And like, you can do Instagram right now. You don't need a pro card for that.
right. Yeah,
You can
kind
show
of
your
two things come to
progression.
mind as you say that.
Hmm.
First, just the aspect of a lot of people in bodybuilding, we have this a lot of times perfectionism
Yes.
and struggling with the relationship of it can push us forward, but it can also hinder us of
Yeah.
for me myself, like I have to constantly remind myself of not being too hard on myself. Like,
Okay.
to your point, we're always trying to be better. There's areas in my physique like I can pick out it's infinite of the things that I can improve.
Yeah.
And, going through prep of like I need to be leaner, I need to be bigger, I need to, do
Yeah.
XYZ.
This part has to be brought up. This body part has to be. Yeah.
Right. But like
Yeah.
appreciating of like how far you've come, how much you've been able to accomplish, And all of those little wins along the way is
Yeah.
something that can get lost by the wayside. And when you when you fast forward to the end, I would hate to look back, and I would hate for anybody else to look back and say, wow, I didn't actually appreciate or soak in or be in the present moment throughout that
Yeah.
journey. And I was so focused on, I need to be better. I need to, what's next? The next show, the next off season, the
That you
next
didn't enjoy
this,
the moment,
that you
what,
didn't
and you had
enjoy.
wins in the moment. Yeah.
Yes. And then, yeah. And because when you look back, it's easier to say, oh, wow, like look at everything that I've done. But it's such a treasure to be able to have that mindset as you go through
Yeah.
and really enjoy. This is supposed to be fun. Like people forget that. Like bodybuilding,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be
it's a
fun.
sport. It's a sport that we
Yes.
do for to compete and have fun with each other and kind of like push each other a little bit and enjoy. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make a difference. So
Yeah.
so
And just maybe one other thing too, just touching on
yeah,
because I think it's very common nowadays too for people to, they jump into bodybuilding and they say, my goal is to get a pro card in two
yeah,
years, or like just having the goal of like, I want to become a pro. To me, it's kind of funny of, it, if there was somebody that said like, went up to like an NFL player and said like,
yeah.
I want to be, yes,
I'm gonna be
playing
like in the
on the Green
starting
Bay
line of the LA
Packers or,
Chargers
right,
in
exactly.
2 years.
And they would look at you like, huh? But the other thing too is not much changes when you get to the pro level,
Yeah,
especially from the day-to-day executions of what I do. Nothing is really different.
yeah.
I'm
You have to keep
still,
pushing and growing, right?
yes,
And
yes, I still have goals to do better, eating my meals, do my cardio, and lifting.
yeah.
Fundamentally, everything is the same, except for of like I just go to different levels of competition.
Right, right. And you
So,
may, the food may be a little more, the muscle mass may be a little more, the weight may be a little
yeah.
more, but the overall process is still the same, though,
Yes. And that's why
basically.
I've always asked myself, I have a saying of WWPD, or what would a pro do?
Hmm.
And so from MPC now to IFBB, that's been the same motto. Like that doesn't change.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that, people can take away from this as well is do the day-to-day actions, and are your day-to-day actions in alignment with
Hmm.
becoming an IFBB pro if that's your goal? Or again, having that best physique, growing, becoming your best. If you
Hmm.
audit your day-to-day actions, if somebody looked at your life and looked at like a day in the life that you do,
Hmm.
would they
Hmm.
be able to say, oh, yeah, that person is working
Yeah,
towards
their
this
head is
goal?
that way. Their head's that
Hmm.
way versus there may be some change required there, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yep.
you know. And then there's the possibly crushing reality of like, in this sport, genetics are very important. And there are limitations to that, like
Hmm.
it would be unreasonable for me as a new bodybuilder at age 55 on Monday. It would be unreasonable for me to go like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a pro in 2 years. That's insane. That would be,
Hmm.
like my genetics probably preclude me from doing that no matter what I do. So realistic expectations, I think it's something that people have to have that, like you said, and I think you encapsulated it beautifully. Like, do this for the right reasons, whatever those reasons may be. Don't
Hmm.
do it for the and actually, let me ask you this: you are an IFBB Pro, which means you went through the NPC,
Hmm.
which means you won shows at the NPC level, and then all of a sudden you're now in a bigger, harder pool because now you're in the IFBB pool. So theoretically, for a lot of people, I assume, like all of a sudden your competition level goes up because you're
Hmm.
you're that good, but that means that the competition is also that good, which means that you theoretically could have a scenario where you won a bunch of NPC shows because you were really good at that level, and now you're IFBB Pro, but guess what? Now all of a sudden you never win another show ever again
Hmm.
because everyone at this level is super good, right? Now we're all pros.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because all of a sudden, again, like the competition level just went up. Now you have other competitors that are really good like you. So how do you
Yes.
mentally work with that? Like you said, you're a competitive person, but how does that mess with your head? Like the possibility that like like this might be the top level that you get. Like how do you play with that in your head?
It extremely messed with my head.
Okay, okay, fair,
Yes.
fair.
Yes. It's like you read into my rookie season last year. Yeah. So exactly to your point of I went from NPC level, and at that time when I started, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. I didn't
Hmm.
think that I could win a show or win like winning an overall to me when I first started was like winning the Super Bowl. Like that was
Yeah,
my Super Bowl.
yeah.
But like each level that you kind of progress, you kind of break through that next ceiling and you kind of see what's possible, and then you gain that confidence and you build on that. But to your point,
Hmm.
after winning my pro card, I think the season going into that, I won, I think it was three or four overalls. And then my first national show, I was one spot away from one, not even only one spot, but 1 point away from my
Oh
pro
God.
card at NPC Universe. And then I went to NPC USA's. That's where I secured the pro card. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it was a great prep, and it had a lot of momentum.
Hmm.
After that, I transitioned to the off season to then go into, preparing for my pro debut and kind of pro rookie season.
Right.
Mentally, it was very hard for me. I'm a very visual person, and another thing that I highly encourage is visualization.
Hmm.
Seeing your goals, seeing yourself actually attaining those goals is extremely powerful. Your mind cannot tell the difference between visualization and seeing something in your brain
Hmm.
versus actually experiencing it in reality. And so aligning your mindset and your expectation, your goals that way is huge.
Yeah.
I actually struggled with that going into my pro debut because this was all new territory for me, right? Where it's like I hadn't seen myself next to the pros. I didn't have that tangible
Yeah,
thing that I could see.
like now you're amongst the titans.
Right.
And you're like, oh, they are my peers now.
Right.
They're not those people
Yes.
that I idolized before, right? Because they were before over here. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, I'm here.
Yes. And for the record as well, I have never been the biggest person on stage. We
Okay.
all have our strengths. My
Hmm.
strength has been my structure, the condition that I get in, how I present my physique, and I
Uh-huh.
do have size relative, but
Hmm.
most of the pros are bigger than me. Most of the people I competed against at the NPC level, like I got
Yeah.
outsized a lot of times, but that didn't mean that they won because
Right.
again, that's not the only category or criteria within the
Hmm.
judging. But then getting up on stage with those pros, my pro debut, it was very eye-opening. It was very humbling. And as soon as I saw myself next to them, I was like, ah,
Yeah.
I need to keep growing. But it was overcoming that mental obstacle almost of like one, not being able to visualize it, and two, I said earlier, like the goal is always to win, but I'm a realistic person. My pro debut had like 35 or so women at the Chicago Pro,
Right.
and
Right. Like
so
that's
at
odds
first
there are not.
dove right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I really needed to shift my mindset into, again, more of those micro goals throughout the prep,
Hmm.
controlling what I could control. The other thing I love to say too is there's no defense in bodybuilding. You
Yeah.
cannot control who shows up on that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I've heard
that's,
this before. Yes. You can
yes,
bring your package, the best package you can, and then
yes.
hope that when you're next to other people that brought their package, that yours happens to be better,
Right.
you know?
And that's why, like, when people, they're like, oh, like, this person's showing up and they're better than me or bigger than me. Like, I used to get caught in those mental games all the time. At the pro
Yeah.
level, you get the list of competitors, like,
Yeah.
4 or so days before the show. Like, you know who you're going to be up against. And
Hmm.
that can cripple you. But again, the only thing you can control is your day-to-day actions to bring your
Yeah.
best. And so that's what I had to focus on. And also focus on the fact that, again, for me, this is a hobby that I love,
Yeah.
and not losing my love and my passion for this sport because last year at a certain point in the prep, I did kind of lose sight of that, and I was being way too hard on myself, and that creates stress and cortisol, and it makes the prep
Yeah.
harder as
Yeah.
well. And so that was a mental barrier that I had to kind of get past. And my last show of the year last year, so I did 3 shows total: Chicago Pro, Tampa Pro, and then Atlanta Pro. And Atlanta Pro, it's run by Linda Murray, and
Mhm.
so she was speaking to us at the athletes check-ins, and she was just saying of like recognize yourself, like appreciate yourself for being able to be here and competing amongst the pros. And I ended up running into her in the bathroom on show day, and I told her, I was like, thank you for that message, because I really needed to hear that. And I
Yeah.
actually talked about that on, like, I do the YouTube vlogging, and so I had the Tampa Pro like blog, and I spoke about that of just like I because going into that weekend I was like, kind of like, what's the point? Like, why am I even doing the show? I know
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to be bigger and whatever, but it's about soaking in every experience. You learn from every experience, you learn from every show, and you can take that. And I took all of the learnings from that prep into my off season to maximize that off season. And now I'm taking that even into this prep, maximizing my mindset and not letting myself get lost in the pressure.
Yeah, because you could take it, it also, so you can take that input, that information, and you can use it to either build yourself up, which is what you did, like, well, how can I use this information to my advantage?
Yes.
Versus, and visualize positively, like, this is where I want to go, versus, oh no, now I'm discouraged because it's gonna be so hard to win. It's like, which
Yeah.
could destroy you. And I don't think, again, I don't think the average person understands, like, when you're bodybuilding, especially like near that peak week and that moment, how cortisol can literally change how you look completely, and
Yes.
not in
It's
a good
insane.
way if you let it
No.
run away with you. If
Yes.
and it's crazy. It's like, I didn't believe it until I saw it myself for the first time, like in person. I was like, it's insane how in 2 hours of stress, like, you just go, how is
Yeah,
that
your whole
possible?
body just, yes, retains
Yes.
all the stress and water.
It
Yeah,
just looks
it's not a
weird.
good
And
look.
it's, yeah. And you're like, how did that happen? Everything's
Yeah.
perfect. Like, why am I worried? And then look, and then you worry, and it's almost like what you said, like, it's almost like your body's, creating the visualization you had because
Yeah,
of your
yes.
stress,
Yes. Yes, your mind,
right?
like, your body's gonna go where your mind flows. So, like, control your mind, control your body, control the universe and
Yep.
your perception of everything.
It's that Zen-like thing. So,
Yes.
all right, I have a couple of questions before we before we land the plane. And I have
Yes.
a feeling that we can do this again in a couple of months and have a complete other,
Oh, yes.
conversation with of more depth, because of the depth of the experience that you bring and the perspective,
Yes, I love
which is
that.
amazing. So, first thing, let me ask you. So you said your husband is also a competitor. Is that correct? He's
He's
also a
not
bodybuilder and
actually.
competitor. Oh, okay.
He's not. Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
Oh,
Yeah. So
so.
he weightlifts
Uh,
and trains, but yeah, kind of the diet aspect and stuff. He's never been really interested in kind of full dive. Actually, over
mhm.
the last however many weeks, he's officially allowed me to help do a lifestyle diet. I help
Uh-huh.
just some of like friends, coworkers and stuff. I'll do lifestyle client plans and whatnot. And so he is now one of my lifestyle
Uh-huh.
clients, and he's killing it.
Nice.
But
Okay.
yes, overall though, he likes to have a little bit more freedom and be able to just kind of eat a little bit more intuitively. And his job schedule, he does marble restoration. So it's
Mhm.
a very niche job. The schedule changes. He has to work like could be first shift, could be second shift, could be third
Right.
shift, and it could change 3 times in a week. And so it
That
adds a
makes
lot
it
of challenges
challenging.
to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Also, that's so funny because so my wife, I also helped coach. Once I lost the weight, she was like, we did the same thing. Like, she did her own transformation, but she has no interest in competing. And I
Yeah.
was about to ask you, like, what the difference would be between having
Oh
a
yeah.
spouse that competes versus, but it turns out we're about the same. We're like, I help train her.
Hmm.
I help her with her diet, and it's a lifestyle. And for her, it's absolutely lifestyle. And she's in great shape. Like, I'm so proud of her. Like, because she could have just not done it. And she was
Yeah.
like, I guess you did it. I guess I can do this too. Right. I'm like, absolutely. Let's do this. Let's do it
And
together.
that's the biggest thing I love about bodybuilding is
Yeah.
inspiring other people to do the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and same with the kids now. Like, hopefully, my kids see us eat like in a healthy way and not
Yeah.
overdo it, and have like balance in life. And like, well, today we're gonna eat a little bit healthier because there's a birthday and something coming up, so we're gonna balance it out and
Yeah.
that kind of
That's
thing.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
and that routine of like, yeah, and we go to the gym. And I go 6 times a week because I'm an idiot, but I love it though.
Yeah.
And she'll go 3 times though, but they kids see 3 times, 6 times, it doesn't matter. It's a routine, it's healthy, and your parents just stay when they see other parents that don't do that. I think that's where they really notice. When they
Yeah.
see like their peers parents and they're like, like unfortunately, dysregulated or they had challenges with like, body weight and so forth. This is America, unfortunately, the land of
Yeah.
the people in
It's
Walmart,
instilling bad habits. Yeah. Versus like intuitively, your kids are going to be able to make healthier choices and really not have to think about it as much. Like it just
Yeah.
becomes what they do, which is incredible.
Well, modeling behavior, right? For the people
Yes.
around you that hopefully,
Yes.
they learn, and if they have questions, you can answer them. Like, well, I do this because this is how I would like to be,
Hmm.
versus if I didn't, this is what would happen, and I'd rather not. I've been there, and I
Yeah.
don't want to be there again. So anyway, so that's the thing. Okay, so the last question for at least for this session, for this
Yes.
session, we'll do
Because we
this
must
again in
do
a
this
few months.
again. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
do a recheck, see how your season went, and so forth.
Yeah.
So what do you think, if you had to guess, what do people misunderstand the most about female bodybuilding specifically? If you had to
Mm.
kind of, like, what is it that most people go like, oh, shoot, I never thought about that, about female bodybuilding? Is there something that comes to mind? If there isn't, that's cool, but
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I can kind of take it almost a little a different direction of
Mhm,
uh when people see me in my shredded physique and condition, I get lots of compliments, especially like if I'm traveling and stuff, and then like my arms are out and whatever. It's kind of hard to
yeah.
miss them with veins and whatever. I get a lot of positive feedback, which is incredible. Of like, oh my gosh, like I wish could have arms like you. I wish I looked like you. That kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I would say the biggest thing is that viewpoint of like, I wish I could look like you. There's a couple different things wrong with that, but one of the things that I've actually loved about bodybuilding is I've become even more disconnected with how I look from like the mental, emotional
Hmm.
processing of how I look versus I see my body, I see the daily actions as strategic steps to get to a goal and a physique and, very analytically, like how I want to change my physique.
Hmm.
And through the years, I know you asked an earlier question of like what bodybuilding has showed me, and it's really showed me that I have control over how my
Okay.
body looks at any point in time, whether that's off season, that can be very hard for people mentally to gain weight post show
Hmm.
and everything. For me, I've been able to see it as a constructive point of progress, and
Hmm.
it's doing it for a specific goal. And so it's almost kind of that like emotional detachment, because like back when I struggled with disordered eating, I wanted abs. Like I wanted abs so bad,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to be skinny and have abs and be toned, right? And now fast forward of like I have abs most of the year,
Yeah.
I get into this really good shape, but it really doesn't mean the same thing that I would have thought it would. Like if you would have showed me a picture of me now to like past self,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably would have been like, "Oh my gosh, like I must be so happy. Like I have the best physique ever, blah blah blah." And
Hmm.
now me currently, I just have almost that like emotional detachment where I wish people would have less of a focus on almost like what they look like versus like how do you feel? How do you
Yeah.
feel about yourself? Like owning that relationship. How is your health? Where is your priority? Like, are you
Hmm.
nourishing your body? Are you making daily decisions that make yourself proud?
Yeah.
Or regret and, have guilt relative to that? And I said, everything starts in the mind. I mean that to the like literal sense of if you can control where your focus is and define that focus constructively,
Yeah.
it's going to just transcend into all areas of your life, and that includes how you see yourself and how you see other people and that as well. So I think that's kind of that aspect of like, oh, I wish I could look like you, but yeah, it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah, I think the a lot of the I wish I could because I get that too from a lot of guys, especially guys. Once you hit middle age, and most of these guys are like, sadly, visceral fat starts showing up and all that because
Yeah.
as you age, it does get progressively harder.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
just a fact of life.
Yeah.
It's how it is. But I get the whole what I've never understood really well, and I think you just clarified that for me is the I wish I could look like you. And then you say, well, okay, cool. Like, do this. This is what I do. I'll share with you. I'll help you. Nah, but I can't do that. I'm like, well,
You can, you
but
just
you
don't want
can.
yes, you just choose not to.
Exactly. And that realization that you are enabled to do it. It just requires you to make that commitment with yourself,
And
and
prove it to yourself. Prove yourself wrong, you
yeah,
know?
prove
If
yourself
you
wrong
if you
and
say,
every day
"I
prove yourself
can't,"
wrong.
yes, like, you already lost the battle. Like, take "can't" out of your vocabulary.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
literally tell yourself like I can do this, like talk to yourself like you would talk to
Hmm.
somebody else, or like somebody that you were trying to help in their journey of like
Yeah.
you can do this, I know you
Yeah, you
can do
can, you
this.
will do this.
Yeah,
You will. You
yes,
will. You
exactly.
absolutely will. You can
Yes.
and you will.
Yeah,
And
the
you'll see.
negative self narrative is, yes, crippling for
I love
most
that.
people.
How to spin that from the can't attitude, to the I always remember like a friend of mine, like he was just so completely politically incorrect. And he would always tell me, so are you a Puerto Rican or a Puerto Ricant?
Oh
Like,
jeez.
geez, guy. When we would like this was back in college when we were like starting to work out, and at that time it didn't stick. It actually
Yeah,
didn't stick. But
yeah,
then later I remembered him, and I'm like, this is what he was trying to tell me, that it's all about the mind shift. It's all about the
yeah,
mind shift of, oh, there are so many obstacles and therefore I can't, versus, oh, there are so many things I got to remove so that I can, and then just
yes,
open the door, and like I can go
right,
through the door if I open it, but I got to open it,
yes. And yeah,
so.
like all the things where you don't have control over it. Like,
Mhm.
why are you spending that time and energy worrying about it? Like, ask yourself, like,
Exactly.
can I do something about this? Am I going to do something about this information or this event?
Yes.
No? Okay, well then we need to move past it because I need to focus my time and energy on the
Under what
things
I
that I
can. Yeah.
can control. Yeah, and it is building a framework and a habit.
Hmm.
And I've personally seen myself shift and I'll catch myself
Hmm.
of saying something negative and then being like, nope, flip that,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
revert and rewire. And it really is rewiring your brain. And it's something super cool. Like I've seen several of the people that, I hang around in the gym or coworkers or whatnot. And I try to, catch them on if they have those negative self-talk tracks that I hear, and seeing them catch
Hmm.
themselves and like not even realize that they're doing it and become more positive. Oh, that's just I love that so much. Just
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
that
Because you
impact on
see the
other people.
progress at that point. At that point, you can almost like feel the progress, which is
Yes.
great.
Oh,
So,
yes.
well, Paige, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us and to share your very unique viewpoint. And hopefully, man, I hope like there's some women that watch this and see that this is doable. This is being
It is.
healthy and participating in the sport. If it's something you want to do, or just working out just to be healthy, these are things that we can't, like we just said, you can do this. Anyone can do this. It's just a matter of deciding that you can and
Hmm.
focusing on the things that you can do, and start slow, start easy,
Yes.
and just
Yes.
do what you can. And it's a progression. You don't have to go 0 to 100 in 2 days.
No,
you
you'll
know
burn out. Yeah.
Yes,
You need to build
yes,
up
like,
positive momentum and prove it to yourself one step at a time. And it gets
yeah,
easier over time. This becomes a habit. It becomes intuitive. I don't even have to think about most of the stuff I do now because I've just done it for so long. So
yeah,
it will be hard to start, but you
yeah,
can do it. And it's, yeah, one step at a time.
yeah. Once you get those habits and those systems in place, then they start running by themselves
Yes.
because you become used to it, and then it's just a cycle. Just like waking up and brushing your teeth, and
Yeah.
and doing your hair before you go, and getting dressed in the morning. It's the same thing. It just becomes a
Yes.
routine that you do. So,
Yes.
all right. Well, thank you so much for spending the time. And everybody, click, like, subscribe. I will have Paige's information down here in the comments when this episode comes out, in case you want to like get in touch with her, you have questions, you want to follow her path. You have a vlog you mentioned on YouTube, correct?
Yes,
So
yep, I vlogged, yep, my entire prep last year. Andrea Shaw is
nice.
the one that really pushed me to start my vlog last year. I'm so happy I did. Did the whole prep, recorded the whole off season, and now recording my whole prep. So I upload videos almost every single week.
Nice. And do you have a show already in mind? Like, do you know what's next, or are you like, what's next for Paige?
Yeah, so it'll either be the Body B1 Pro June 20th.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then if we're not kind of going for that show, it's gonna be Chicago Pro.
Okay.
So I'll for sure be doing Chicago Pro either way, and then we're thinking about Texas Pro and then the
Nice.
Rising Phoenix show as well. But yeah, solidifying plans as we go. So I'll
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
everybody
That's not
updated on
that
that
far
too.
either. That's not that far into the future. So that'll be soon.
Right.
So best of luck.
Yes.
And I know you'll do great. You'll do great. I
Thank
just
you
know
so
you
much.
will. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for being with us. And like I said, all her information is down here. Follow her. She is awesome. She's inspiring. Thank you, everybody, for your time.